Well, welcome to the first podcast. I really enjoyed having you guys in class yesterday, and I hope you had a good time as well. So what I want to do is have you go get your science notebooks. So if you need to pause the recording, go ahead and do that. Then run get your science notebooks. Make sure you have a pencil or a pen as well. So I'll give you a minute to do that. All right, welcome back. So what you see on the screen is what we ended up doing in class the first day. You notice that that lady has a balloon and her hair is being drawn towards it. One of the things that we learned when we were talking in class is if something is drawn towards something else, we use the word attract or attraction to talk about that. And remember, if something pushes away from something else, that's repulsion. If you don't have those words written in your science notebook, make sure you get those taken care of because they need to be in there. So one of the things we find out is that all of material in the world is called matter. Anything that takes up space, anything that has mass to it is called matter. And at the very, very smallest part of that are what we call atoms. And that's what that diagram in the middle of the screen is. That's a diagram of an atom. Well, what we find out is that atoms are actually made up of different parts. There's three different parts to an atom. There's what's called a neutron right here. And you'll notice down below here it says that there's no charge to a neutron. And then there's something called a proton, and it has a positive charge. And then there's something called an electron, and it has a negative charge. Now, these are just pictures of what we think an atom looks like. So neutrons really are not yellow, protons really are not red, and electrons really are not black. We have to build a model of what we think they need to look like or what they look like. So if you haven't written this in your science notebook, go ahead and pause the podcast and then write that information down because you need to know about neutrons, protons, and electrons. All right, so we now know that there are three little parts to an atom. And remember, atoms are very, 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 very small. You cannot even see them with a microscope. They are so small. There are special instruments that we have been able to invent that help us begin to see what atoms look like. But again, they're very, 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 very teeny tiny. So what we see in this diagram right here is the middle of the atom. This whole section that I'm circling in red is called the nucleus. It's the middle. That's this word right here. And you'll notice inside the nucleus are the protons that have a positive charge and the neutrons that have a neutral charge. And then on the outside of that nucleus, flying around at basically the speed of light, are these other little particles that are called electrons, and they have a negative charge. Even though this picture shows that it's all like in a circle, it's really not like that. Picture a ball and picture the nucleus, the neutrons and the protons are inside of this ball. And around the outside of the ball, someplace, are those electrons. So they don't go in just a circular pattern. They kind of go all over the place, although they do go around, but it's more like going around the outside of a ball instead of going around a particular path. Then, one of the things that we learned in class the other day was this notion of attraction and repulsion. And again, I said there's different words that we can use. So attraction, the root word of that is attract. And what we see on this diagram is that if we have a positive charge right here, it is actually attracted or drawn towards a negative charge. Okay? You can see that they're drawn towards each other. And then the opposite of that is if we have two charges that are exactly the same. Right here we have a positive charge, on this side we have a positive charge, and if you bring those two positive charges together, they're going to push away from each other, and they're going to repel, or they're going to experience repulsion. So I have a question for you. Looking at the diagram again, if you have opposite charges, what's going to happen? Will they attract or will they repel? Make sure you write that down in your notebook. So write opposite charges and then put either attract or repel right here in the line. And then do the same thing for this one. Like charges do what? Do they attract or do they repel? I'm going to ask you a couple of other questions that you can write down. So remember in class where we had a balloon, and we took that balloon and we blew it up and we rubbed it on our hair, we stuck it in around the sock or whatever, and then we put it up on the wall, or some of you actually got it to go on the ceiling, and some of you actually got it to stick on the whiteboard. So the question is, what can you tell me about the charges in the balloon and the charges on the wall in order for the balloon to stick to the wall? What did those charges have to be? Think about that. Write that down in your notebook. Also, if you had a balloon that was charged, we're going to start to use that term now, and another balloon that was charged, and you brought those two balloons close to each other, and instead of being attracted, they pushed away or they repelled each other, what can you tell me about the charges of these two balloons? Okay? So make sure you have all this stuff this information in your science notebooks. Bring your notebooks with you to class next week, and I'll see you on Thursday. Thanks.